What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Mad About Disney, and today we have something a little bit different. Yes, I'm totally copying another YouTuber on this, and frankly, I don't remember which one it was, because I saw a video a couple days ago where they did a concept where they have a ranking system similar to this one here. For some reason, there's an S at the top, and then it goes A through F as if it was a grade in school, and they ranked fast food chains. I'm drawing a blank on what YouTuber that was, but I thought it would be neat as a fun, easy video to do today was to go through and rank Pixar movies in this very same category. First movie we have here is Toy Story 3. So Toy Story 3 is a great movie, really good movie. I felt like it did a really good job of wrapping up the Toy Story franchise, which is why I was frankly surprised that they're making a fourth one. So Toy Story 3, really emotional movie, one of the few times I have been brought to tears in a theater. That is certainly an A. I'm gonna be very picky in terms of grading. Pixar movies are phenomenal, and I don't have negative feelings towards many of them, if any. So if any movie that gets a D, probably a D or above, is one of my favorite movies. So the fact that Toy Story 3 got an A there is really impressive. Alright, next up we have Coco. Coco's an interesting one. It was the first Pixar movie to have a primary focus on music, especially since Coco, the story revolves around music, but also the music is great. And a lot of people are going to be surprised by this, and I'm thinking now this video could be one of my most controversial videos to date. People are going to get debate with me in the comments, I bet, on this one. I'm going to give Coco an S. And that's probably coming from the fact that I absolutely love the music from the movie. And I thought that visually it was just an amazing movie, and personally I don't know what else I would change about the movie, and you know that it's a good movie, when there's not much else you could change about it. So I'm actually going to give Coco an S, and you might not see many more of those, so take that one in. Alright, The Good Dinosaur. It's really interesting. This is probably it's definitely my least favorite Pixar movie, and for the sake of argument, I'm just going to give it an F. Because I know that nothing else is going to get down there, so I might as well, I don't know, nothing else will fill out the bottom of the barrel there. The Good Dinosaur, I felt visually, while they did a really good job at the nature scenes, I just didn't think it had enough color for me. The story was alright, and I get the idea, but personally it just didn't stand out to me. It felt like a less than Pixar movie, so overall I'm probably just going to give it that F. Alright, next up we have Inside Out. Inside Out I thought was great because when this movie came out, it was right after or around when Pixar was doing a lot of sequels. So I thought it was good for them to come up with another original movie, and I felt that they did a really good job with this movie. I thought it was a very touching movie emotionally, very visually stunning as far as all the colors. They used a ton of bright colors, and overall I thought that the plot moved with a decent pace, and I'm gonna give this one a B. I thought that it wasn't phenomenal, but I thought that it was good enough that it deserves a higher ranking spot on this list, and I think that Inside Out is actually underrated in terms of Pixar movies. Alright, next up we have Brave. Brave's another interesting one, and I go back and forth on Brave. I love the story. It's a little bit visually dull as far as colors, but that's intentional, and I'm actually okay with this. Even though I wasn't with The Good Dinosaur, I'm okay with this here. I like the story. There are some good background pieces of music. Merida's a neat character, and I like that character at the forefront of the story. But it's not one of my favorites. It's not one that I rewatch like a decent amount. I wouldn't put it on. Like if I saw it on TV, I probably wouldn't put it on. So I'm gonna give it a D. And like I said at the beginning, a D is like, it's in one of my, it's a really good movie. It's just a D for Pixar there's a lot to work with Pixar. Next up we have Up. Up's another really interesting movie. Another visually stunning movie with a really interesting plot that I really enjoyed. The emotional heartstrings get pulled on in this movie, but I just feel like it doesn't have, I don't have the same attachment to it or loyalty to it, I guess you could say, as some other movies, but I do really enjoy it. So I'm gonna give it a B. I do think that it's a really good movie and that it deserves a spot on the upper parts of this list, but I don't necessarily think that it's A or S quality, even though some people might think it is, but that's just, I guess that's just how I feel. WALL-E is a really interesting movie. It plays on the future. It talks about what we think humanity will be in the future. And to be quite honest, I never got into WALL-E. I never really enjoyed it as much as I feel like I could or should, frankly. I think that parts of the movie are really interesting and really fun to watch, and again, there's some emotional heartstrings there. But parts of the movie just felt a little bit slow to me. There are a few characters that, while I think were intended to be funny, aren't as funny as I would hope, and the central theme of the villain towards the end of the movie, I just can't relate with that antagonist as much as I could with antagonists in other movies. So I'm gonna give WALL-E a D with Brave, and I think that this is more of a D closer to an E versus a Brave, which is a D closer to a C, but I still think that WALL-E fits nicely in this column here. Alright, next up we have Ratatouille, which is in the running for my favorite Pixar movies, and if you haven't guessed by me just saying that, it's going up by S. I'm a huge fan of Europe as a continent and European culture, and obviously Ratatouille takes place in France. I am very excited for the Ratatouille ride that they're putting in Epcot. So overall, I think I love this movie. I love the story. I love the cooking element because I love cooking. So I think I have an attachment pretty much to the cooking and to Europe being in France. But I think overall it has all of the emotional attachment that other movies have. And I don't think that many people would rank Ratatouille above Toy Story 3. So I think I'm unique in that aspect. But I'm really interested to see how other people would put that. Next up we have Cars 3, which is another interesting movie. I'm going to bring Cars 2 and Cars 1 over here as well now. I'm going to do all three at one time, because I think that this is an interesting story arc. So Cars as a movie was, I think, a very enjoyable movie, and I really liked it. I'm going to put that at a C. I think that the story that they introduced was really interesting, and I used to love watching the movie and playing with the toys. Unfortunately, Cars 2 took a little bit more of a dip here. I really enjoyed the European racing element. Like I said before, I love Europe, so the fact that they went to Italy was cool, and even though it's not in Europe, the Japan part was cool, the London part, all that was cool. I think my biggest issue with this movie is the conflict between, not an actual conflict in the plot, but like the fact that there's the racing element and the spy element, and while they do technically intertwine at the end of the movie, I felt like it was a little bit too much going on there for my liking, which is why I put that at that E spot. And then Cars 3, I felt like did a decent job at recovering from Cars 2, bringing back that story a little bit. But I also think that it didn't quite get to the level of enjoyment I had with the original. So I'm going to put that in the D column for a nice and easy to visualize. You have Cars 1 at a C, Cars 2 at an E, and Cars 3 at D. So it started really well, it went down a little bit, and it recovered a little bit. But yeah, that's where I'd put those movies. Next up, we have the Incredibles movies, both of which I really enjoyed. I think that these are both really good movies. I waited a really long time for that Incredibles sequel, and I think it did a fantastic job living up to Incredibles, the original Incredibles. They're both going at the top of my list, and to the surprise of many people, I'm going to put Incredibles 2 on the S column and Incredibles 1 on the A column, and people may be surprised by that, but these movies are very similar in their style, but overall I think that I liked some of the jokes in Incredibles 2 just a little bit better. and that's why it's giving it that S spot. And if you're wondering about why they're so high up, maybe it's because I love Marvel, but superheroes I love in general, so this series is probably one of my favorites, which is why it's all the way up there. Alright, next up we have another high-ranking series coming. We have Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. This is really, I'm going to be blatant with this one. Finding Nemo, I have a huge emotional bias towards. When I was little, I used to literally carry around a plush Nemo with me everywhere I went. And ever since, I've had such a strong emotional attachment to Finding Nemo. And in turn, that gives me a very strong emotional attachment to Finding Dory. Overall, Finding Dory is actually a very amazing movie, looking at the franchise from the perspective of Dory more than it was of Marlin in the original, Marlin and Nemo in the original. But overall, that franchise is probably my favorite franchise, and it's hard to say the word franchise when I have movies like Ratatouille and Coco, which are both standalone in my top column. But as far as ones that have multiple movies, you have the Nemo, Toy Story, Incredibles, Cars movies. I think that I definitely have to put the Finding Nemo and Dory, that franchise, is probably my favorite. Alright, next up we have the two Monsters movies. We have Monsters, Inc. and Monsters University. Both movies I really liked. Monsters, Inc. is a classic movie that I really enjoy. And that is... this is a tough one. Yeah, it has to go in A. Monsters Incorporated is a great movie, and I really enjoy watching it, and I've watched it many times, and I still love it. Monsters University, I'm going to keep right here in C. I think that that's a fitting place for it. I think it was a good prequel for Monsters Incorporated. I thought it did a good job, but it just doesn't feel as classic to me yet as the original does, but that's just how I feel about it. Alright, we're getting down to the end, so I'm just going to bring all of the last three down here. Alright, so we have two arguably really classic ones, and then A Bug's Life is also classic, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for what I'm about to do, but I'm going to put A Bug's Life down on E. Even though it was the second Pixar movie to come out, I just would like to say that I'm not judging this based off of how the animation is slightly older than the new ones. Maybe it's because, I don't know it's just me personally, but I felt like I didn't emotionally connect with this movie that much, if at all. I think it's an enjoyable film to watch once, maybe twice, every few years, but I don't think that it's an outstanding movie, and I probably would put it towards the bottom of my list. And then we have Toy Story and Toy Story 2, and interestingly enough, this is probably going to be one of my most controversial ones. Toy Story for me is only a B, and I struggle with this movie. Alright, and I just want to clarify, Toy Story is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. But the one of the reasons I don't, and this is probably the main reason I don't like this movie as much as Toy Story 3, which is an A, would be that Woody, even though this is part of his character development, it comes off a little bit arrogant and selfish in parts of this movie, and I don't like that for him. I know that that's how his character developed, and I know that that's what the writers intended, but having seen now 3 movies where Woody becomes the character that he is today, I struggle with that, and I want to clarify that B is very good for Pixar. These movies, all of these, are my favorite Pixar movies, and I think that Toy Story could debatably be on an A, but I enjoyed Toy Story 3, and that did such a good job of wrapping up the series that Toy Story started that I felt like that deserved its own little spot. And with that, I will put my final one, which is Toy Story 2, also in B, for a very similar reason, in the sense that I don't have as much of an emotional attachment to, because I feel like it was still kind of setting up for something, because it had the introduction of new characters with Jesse, Stinky Pete, this was his only movie, but Jesse and Bullseye. Jesse turned out to be a main character. I felt like this movie was still setting up for something. And then Toy Story 3, they closed it all out. So I felt like these two are both solid movies to have in the B column, personally, but that's just me. Alright, so that's gonna be it. Sorry if you guys disagree with me on some of these, but I personally, this is a personal opinion, I'd love to hear what you guys would change on this list. It's really a really highly debated topic is Pixar movies. If you guys want to see me do a similar video to this with the tiers on anything else, please leave a comment down below. And you may notice that I'm recording this in Photoshop. I'm thinking about doing another Photoshop video where I take suggestions from you guys and do my best and use my poor Photoshop skills to Photoshop them together. So if you guys want to see that, or you have a suggestion for what you'd like me to do in that video, please leave a comment down below. I'd also like to point out that I released a few new t-shirts. I have this one here, kind of with the Miami Vice colors. It's a black t-shirt. It says MAD, and it's got part of the old Epcot logo in a neon blue and pink. It's a really comfortable shirt, and we have it in multiple styles. We also have a few more designs, so if you guys want to check that out, the link to my TeePublic store is down below. But with that, I will see all of you Mad Maniacs in the next video.